I, 23, female, have always struggled with anxiety and depression. It was not something that just came out of nowhere. It had been a part of me for as long as I could remember. When I was younger, I had a hard time making friends, and I always felt like I was just too much for people. My mom, Dottie, 57, female, was never the warmest or most understanding person. She was not outright cruel, but she just did not believe in mental health struggles. She thought therapy was pointless and that people who relied on medication or emotional support animals were weak. When I was 19, my therapist suggested getting a therapy dog, and for the first time in years, I felt hopeful. After doing a lot of research and saving up money, I finally got Suki, my golden retriever. I named her after Suki from Gilmore Girls because that show has always been my comfort show. And Suki St. James was my favorite character. Suki was not just a pet, she was my lifeline. She could sense when I was having a panic attack before it even started. She knew when I was feeling overwhelmed and would nudge me until I sat down and let her calm me. She made me feel safe. Things were good for a while, even though my mom did not fully approve. She did not say much about it. But then 2 years ago, she married her husband Glenn, and suddenly everything changed. Along with Glenn came my new stepsister Selena, 25, female. Selena had been doing dog shows since she was a kid, and she was obsessed with purebred, well-trained show dogs. She had this whole thing about how real dogs should have a purpose beyond being companions. She looked down on Suki from the moment she met her, calling her a pet, not a real working dog. I ignored it because honestly, I didn't care what Selena thought. Suki was mine and she was exactly what I needed. But my mom started acting weird about Suki. She began making comments about how I was too dependent on her and how I should learn to cope without a dog. She brought up how Selena had been asking for another show dog and how selfish it was for me to keep a dog I did not really need when Selena could actually do something with her. I told her that Suki was not just a dog to me. She was an essential part of my mental health. My mom just waved it off. One day, I came home and Suki was gone. At first, I thought maybe she had gotten out somehow. But when I asked my mom, she just sighed and said she found her a better home. I felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me. She told me that Suki was fine and that I needed to stop being dramatic. I kept asking where she was, but she refused to tell me. When I finally found out, it was worse than I could have imagined. She had given Suki to Selena. Selena had taken my therapy dog and was now training her for dog shows. I could not believe it. I was furious. I begged for Suki back, but my mom told me it was too late, that Selena had bonded with her and that I needed to grow up. She acted like I was throwing a tantrum over a toy instead of grieving the loss of my emotional support animal. Selena did not even feel bad. She actually had the nerve to tell me that Suki was happier now that she had a purpose. I spiraled after that. My anxiety got worse and my depression became unbearable. I felt like I had lost the only thing that had ever truly grounded me. My mom didn't care. She acted like she had done me a favor, like forcing me to be without Suki was going to somehow make me stronger. But all it did was break me. I stopped sleeping properly. Every night I lay awake thinking about Suki and wondering if she missed me. I did not have the energy to do anything. I stopped eating regularly. My grades suffered. My job performance dropped. I did not have the motivation to get out of bed most days. My mom saw all of this and still thought she had done the right thing. She kept telling me I was too reliant on the dog, that it was not normal to need an animal so much. Selena started posting pictures of Suki on social media, all dressed up in fancy dog show outfits. Seeing those pictures felt like a knife to my chest. I wanted to scream every time I saw her referring to Suki as her prize-winning beauty. That was my dog, my best friend, the only one who had been there for me during my worst moments. And now she was being paraded around like some trophy. I tried to reason with my mom again, but she shut me down every time. She acted like I was being ungrateful, like I was making a big deal out of nothing. She even had the nerve to tell me that I should be happy for Selena because Suki was thriving. I hit rock bottom after that. I stopped talking to my mom unless I absolutely had to. I distanced myself from Selena completely. I could not stand being in the same room as either of them. I tried to go to therapy again, but every session just made me angrier. It felt like nothing could fix the hole in my chest where Suki used to be. I started having nightmares about losing her. In my dreams, I would be looking for Suki, running through endless hallways and empty streets calling her name, but she would never come. I woke up in a cold sweat every night, gasping for air, feeling like I was drowning. Every time I saw a golden retriever on the streets, I felt a pang of grief so strong it nearly knocked me off my feet. I would see people walking their dogs in the park, laughing, playing, and I would feel this overwhelming sense of loss. It was not fair. It was not fair that my mom had taken something so vital from me just to make my stepsister happy. I became more isolated. I stopped attending family gatherings. I avoided my mom's calls. I did not want anything to do with her anymore. She had made it clear that my well-being did not matter to her. She had chosen Selena's happiness over mine. When I finally snapped and reported Suki as missing, I did not expect much to happen. I had convinced myself that the police would not care, that they'd brush it off as a family dispute, but I was wrong. I filed a report, provided all of Suki's paperwork, her microchip registration, adoption records, even old vet bills with my name on them. I explained how my mother had taken her without my permission and given her to someone else. I did not sugarcoat anything. The officer listened, took notes, and told me they'd look into it. I left feeling drained but hopeful. It was out of my hands now. All I could do was wait. Days passed with no word. My anxiety was through the roof. I kept checking my phone, waiting for an update, dreading that they'd call and say nothing could be done. Then one evening, I got the call. The police had located Suki. They confirmed that Selena had her and that she had been claiming ownership. But my documentation proved otherwise. The officer told me they would be retrieving my dog. I felt a strange mix of relief and panic. I wanted Suki back more than anything, but I also knew this was going to cause an explosion in my family. I was not there when it happened, but I heard all about it afterwards. The police did not just quietly take Suki back. They showed up at one of Selena's dog training sessions, an event she had invited a bunch of her friends to. Right there in front of everyone, the officers confronted her, explained the situation, and told her she had to return Suki immediately. Selena tried to argue, insisting that Suki belonged to her now and that she had put time and effort into training her. The officers did not care. They scanned Suki's microchip, confirmed she was mine, and took her away, right in front of her friends, right in front of everyone who had probably heard her brag about her amazing dog. She did not just lose Suki. She lost face, and she was not about to take that quietly. Then came the arrest. Apparently, when she kept arguing and refusing to comply, the officers had no choice but to take things a step further. I later learned that because I had provided proof of ownership and had already reported Suki as stolen, the situation escalated from a misunderstanding to a legal matter. Selena was charged with theft. I did not know about the arrest until my mom called screaming at me. I did not pick up, but she left a furious voicemail about how I had humiliated Selena, how I had ruined her reputation over a dog. She claimed I had gone too far, that I could have just let it go, and that Selena had done nothing but love and care for Suki. She called me selfish, petty, and jealous. She said I had destroyed her family over my childish attachment to a pet. I blocked her number. When I finally had Suki back, I cried harder than I had in years. She was confused at first, but the second she realized she was home, she curled up next to me like she never wanted to leave again, and honestly, neither did I. But the fallout was worse than I expected. My mother did not just hate me for what I had done, she actively tried to turn the entire family against me. She called relatives, telling them how I had ruined Selena's life. She framed the situation as if I had maliciously set out to hurt my stepsister because I could not handle the fact that she was better than me. Some relatives took her side. I got texts from cousins, aunts, even a few family friends all telling me that I had gone too far, that I should have handled it differently, that I should have just let it go. But then there were others, people who actually listened, and some of them reached out to check on me. A few even admitted they never liked how my mom treated me in the first place. I stayed quiet for the most part. I didn't respond to the messages, did not engage in the drama. I had what mattered. Suki was home and I was finally free of the nightmare that had been consuming me. Selena, meanwhile, was still furious. She went on social media making passive-aggressive posts about snakes and jealousy. She told anyone who would listen that I had weaponized the police against her. She painted herself as the victim of a cruel, bitter stepsister. I ignored it. Then, a few days later, I got an email. It was from my mom, long, angry, filled with accusations. She said she hoped I was happy with myself, that Selena's reputation was forever ruined, that my actions had torn our family apart, that she could never forgive me for what I had done. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I closed the email and never looked at it again. Suki was curled up at my feet, just like always. And for the first time in a long, long time, I felt like I could finally breathe. AITA for reporting my stolen dog and getting my stepsister arrested, even though it caused a huge family fallout. Update 1. It has been a few weeks since I posted, and the drama has not faded. If anything, it has only gotten worse. I thought that ignoring my mom's email and Selena's online rants would help things die down. But that was wishful thinking. Instead, they doubled down. First, my mom started reaching out to people outside the family. Mutual friends, old neighbors, even co-workers from a job I had years ago. She was desperate to make me look bad and kept spreading her twisted version of the story. According to her, I was a bitter, jealous person who had ruined my stepsister's life over a dog. She conveniently left out the part where she stole my therapy dog and handed her over like a prize. Then Selena took things further. When people online stopped engaging with her sob story, she found another way to make herself the victim. She filed a counter-complaint against me, claiming that I had been harassing her and had set her up to be arrested. She even threw in some nonsense about emotional distress and defamation. The police did not take it seriously since there was no evidence, but the fact that she even tried sent me into a spiral of anxiety. And then came the worst part. My mom actually hired a lawyer, not to sue me directly, but to try and get Suki back. She argued that Selena had cared for her long enough that she had a claim to the dog. It was a ridiculous, desperate move, and thankfully it did not go anywhere. My documentation was solid, and the lawyer probably realized they were wasting their time. But the fact that my own mother was willing to go this far, just to spite me, was devastating. Despite all of this, Selena still refused to let it go. She went back to social media, posting cryptic messages about betrayal and evil family members. Then she started telling people that she was suffering financially because of me, that her false arrest had cost her job opportunities, that she was struggling mentally and emotionally, or because I could not handle sharing. Some people bought into it, sending her sympathy messages and even money, which just encouraged her to keep playing the victim. Meanwhile, I was still dealing with the fallout within the family. Some relatives completely cut me off, refusing to hear my side of the story. Others reached out in private, telling me they supported me but did not want to get involved in the mess publicly. It was exhausting. I had never felt more isolated, even though I knew I had done the right thing. Then things took another turn. A few days ago, I found out that Selena was trying to get another dog, one that looked almost identical to Suki. She had been reaching out to breeders, trying to find a dog with the same coloring and size. At first, I did not understand why. Then it hit me. She wanted to pretend she had never lost Suki. She wanted to erase the embarrassment of losing her in front of everyone. It was disturbing. The idea that she would rather replace Suki with a look-alike than just move on showed just how deep her obsession ran. I don't know if she actually managed to get another dog, but the fact that she even tried left me shaken. As if that were not enough, my mom escalated things even further. She tried to reach out to my employer. I found out when my manager pulled me aside one afternoon and asked if I was having family troubles. My mom had emailed them, claiming I was unstable and vindictive, all in an attempt to sabotage my job. Thankfully, my boss saw through the manipulation and warned me instead of taking her seriously. But that was the moment I realized my mom was not just enabling Selena, she was actively working against me. Then came the final blow. My mom and Selena started hinting at legal action again. Not for Suki this time, but for damages. They were trying to claim that I had deliberately ruined Selena's reputation and that she had suffered financially and emotionally because of my overreaction. Of course, they had no real case, but the stress of it all made my anxiety skyrocket. The idea that they would go this far just to hurt me was unreal. Through all of this, Suki has been my rock. She's safe, happy, and back to being my comfort on bad days. I know I did the right thing, but the exhaustion from constantly looking over my shoulder has been overwhelming. I've had to start blocking new numbers almost daily. I've had to be extra careful with what I post online. And worst of all, I've had to accept that my own mother will never be on my side. But that is not new. At this point, I did not know if things will ever calm down. My mom and Selena seem determined to keep digging this out forever. And while I refuse to give in to their nonsense, the constant attacks have been exhausting. I just wanted my dog back. I never wanted any of this. Update 2. Hi, I read a few comments asking me if things were already this complicated in my family, so here is some backstory. It has been clear to me for a long time that my family was never normal. My mom, my dad, Glenn, 59, male, were married for years, but their relationship was never happy. I do not have a lot of memories of them being affectionate or even really getting along. What I do remember is the constant tension in our house, the arguments behind closed doors, the feeling that something was not right. Eventually, when I was a teenager, my parents got divorced. I wasn't shocked. Honestly, I thought things might get better after the split. But instead, everything just got messier. My dad was heartbroken, but he handled things the best he could. He was still present in my life, still made time for me, and still did what he could to make sure I was okay. My mom, on the other hand, moved on almost immediately. And when I say immediately, I mean it. Enter Gary, my stepdad. The problem? He was not just some random guy my mom met after her divorce. Gary was actually my dad's cousin. He had been married for years, but strangely enough, he also filed for divorce just a few weeks after my parents split. And then within 2 months, he and my mom were married. The whole thing felt rushed and suspicious. My dad was stunned. He did not make a big scene about it, but I knew he did not believe their story. My mom and Gary both insisted that nothing shady had happened, that they had simply fallen in love and decided to be together right away. But the timing was just too perfect. No one divorces their spouse and then gets married again that quickly unless something was already going on. Still, no matter how my dad or I felt about it, it did not change anything. My mom and Gary were married, and now I had a new stepsister, Selena. That is when things really started going downhill. Selena had always been in my life before, but we were not close. She was Gary's daughter from his first marriage, and she had always been competitive for no real reason. Once we were officially family, it got worse. She wanted everything I had. If I got a new toy, she needed the same one. If I wore a certain outfit, she would suddenly want it too. It was not just childish jealousy, it was like she needed to prove something. At first, I thought she'd grow out of it, but the older we got, the worse it became. When I started dating, Selena made things even more difficult. If I had a boyfriend, she would do everything she could to insert herself into the relationship. Sometimes she tried to steal them outright, flirting with them behind my back or spreading lies about me to make them like her instead. Other times she would suddenly act like their best friend, making sure she was always around, always involved, always competing for their attention. I fought with her about it more times than I can count, but every single time my mom took her side. She would tell me I needed to learn to share with my sister, like boyfriends were just another toy or piece of clothing that we could pass back and forth. It didn't stop at relationships either. Whenever my dad bought me something, whether it was a birthday gift or just something special, my mom would immediately call him and start screaming. She would demand to know why Selena did not get the same thing. She acted like it was some huge injustice that my dad wanted to do something nice for his own daughter without including her new husband's kid. I could not win. Nothing I did was ever just for me. Selena always had to have a piece of it, and my mom always made sure of that. By the time I was 19, I was done. I needed to get out of that house. I was in college, but I was also working and making decent money. It was not a fortune, but it was enough to rent a small apartment with a roommate. It was not luxurious, but it was mine. It was freedom. I thought my mom would be happy that I was taking responsibility for myself, that I was learning how to live on my own while still balancing school and work. Instead, she was furious. Not because she wanted me to stay, but because, according to her, my moving out made Selena look bad. At that point, Selena was not in college. She was not working. She was just living at home doing nothing. My mom told me that by leaving, I was making Selena feel like a failure, that I was showing off and rubbing my independence in her face. Update 3. It has been a few months since everything with my mom and Selena escalated, and I honestly thought they would eventually let it go, but of course they did not. Instead, they decided to take things to a whole new level by trying to take me to court. Yes, you read that right. My mom and Selena actually tried to sue me. For what, you ask? Damages. Damages for what exactly? Well, according to them, I had humiliated Selena, caused emotional distress, and sabotaged her life. My mom even threw in something about how I had torn apart her family by refusing to get over the whole therapy dog situation and making a big deal out of it. Apparently, because Selena got arrested for stealing my dog, it was my fault that she lost some friends, had a hard time getting a job, and became the laughing stock of their social circle. Never mind the fact that she literally stole my therapy dog and kept her for herself. Never mind that she had been cruel to me for years and faced zero consequences for her actions. No, apparently I was the villain in this story. It was ridiculous from the start. I was not worried in the slightest because they did not actually have a case. But the fact that they even attempted it, that was what got me. They were so desperate to punish me for standing up for myself that they actually thought the legal system would entertain their nonsense. They could not even find a decent lawyer. Apparently, every attorney they contacted either laughed them out of the office or flat out refused to take their case. They could not even get someone to file paperwork on their behalf because, surprise, surprise, suing someone for hurting your feelings is not exactly a strong legal argument. The only people who entertained them were sketchy lawyers who were just out for a quick buck and had no real experience handling serious cases. And even they were not confident in their chances. Eventually they gave up on the lawsuit, but that did not mean they stopped trying to make my life miserable. Selena took to social media again, ranting about how I had ruined her life and how I was a heartless, selfish person who never wanted a sister. According to her, I was an evil mastermind who had been plotting against her for years. In her version of the story, I had somehow stolen opportunities from her and made her feel worthless growing up. She even tried to claim that I was jealous of her all along. Yes, me, jealous of her. She conveniently left out the part where she spent our entire childhood trying to take everything that was mine. Her post gained some traction in her small social circle, mostly because it was full of dramatics and sob stories. Some of her friends and followers jumped to her defense, calling me every name in the book. Others, however, saw right through her nonsense and called her out. That part was beautiful to witness. One person even commented, "Wait, did you not literally steal your stepsister's therapy dog? And did not the cops get involved and now you're mad because you faced consequences?" She deleted that comment and several others like it. But the internet never forgets. People started digging into her past posts and found inconsistencies in her stories. She had painted herself as the perfect innocent victim, but it was hard to maintain that image when there was a police report with her name on it for stealing my dog. Eventually, she made her account private, but the damage was already done. My mom, meanwhile, decided to play the victim. She went around telling anyone who would listen that I had turned on her for no reason, and that she was a devastated mother who had been betrayed by her own child. She conveniently left out the part where she enabled Selena's behavior and actively encouraged it. She called me a few times, leaving long-winded voicemails about how families should stick together and how she did not raise me to be so heartless. She went on about how Selena was struggling now and how she had lost job opportunities, how she was so embarrassed to even show her face in public. As if that was my fault. I did not steal anything. I did not lie. I didn't break any laws. I just took back what was mine. The worst part, they actually convinced some of their friends and extended family members that I was the bad guy. I started getting messages from relatives I hadn't spoken to in years, demanding to know why I was being so cruel to my mother. A couple of them even tried to guilt me into apologizing and making amends. I ignored all of it. There was no point in arguing with people who had already made up their minds. If they wanted to believe my mom and Selena's twisted version of events, that was their problem. I had spent my entire life trying to keep the peace, trying to be the bigger person, and trying to avoid unnecessary fights. And for what? So they could continue to walk all over me? Not anymore. As for my dad, he's been supportive through all of this. He never liked how my mom treated me, and he always saw Selena for what she was. He told me he was proud of me for standing my ground and not letting them manipulate me anymore. That meant everything to me. I also found out through him that Selena had been trying to apply for jobs, but apparently she had a hard time finding one because she refused to put in real effort. She had been relying on my mom to pay for everything, and with all the stress my mom was going through, money was getting tight. Apparently, my mom was now regretting spending so much time and energy on Selena because she was finally realizing that Selena had no intention of becoming independent. Oh well, not my problem. At the end of the day, my mom and Selena lost. Not just legally, but in every way that mattered. They did not get their ridiculous lawsuit. They did not get the public sympathy they wanted. And they did not get me to break. All they did was prove once again why I was better off without them. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.